afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another video. In this faction focus, we're going to be looking at the Disciples of Tzeentch. Let's see what these pesky magic lovers have got to offer 4th edition. So the Disciples of Tzeentch are here, and they are probably on the top of my most frustrating armies to play in 3rd edition. So if you don't really know what they are, they're basically one of the 4 cult chaos armies. Obviously we've got Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh and Tzeentch. And Tzeentch is basically all about magic and change and generally being a douchebag. And they play like douchebags as well on the tabletop. So yeah, if you want to get into, you like magic and you like the colour blue a lot and you like birds, then this is definitely an army for you. They have some of the most coolest looking models in the range, but I just hate playing them and wouldn't really want to play them, which is a shame because they're a nice looking army. So let's have a little look at the rules and see what they are about, and let's see what changes 4th edition brings to them, because change is their thing. So, battle traits for the Disciples of Tzeentch. So we have Master of Destiny, which is essentially their Destiny dice, which hasn't really changed much from 3rd edition. So basically, at the start of the game, you roll 9 dice and place them on the side. These are your Destiny dice. They can be spent during the battle to change certain dice rolls. You can never have more than 9 Destiny dice at once. And then during the battle, instead of making a roll from the list, below for a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch unit, you can spend your Destiny dice. The roll is replaced with the roll of the Destiny dice you spend. So basically, if you've got a 6, one of your dice says a 6 on your Destiny dice, and you need a 6 for something, you can use that Destiny dice rather than rolling a d6 dice. That's basically how it works. For 40k players, it's the Fate dice system that the pesky Eldar have. If you want to replace 2d6 or a 3d6 roll, then obviously you need 2 dice or 3 dice. You must spend a number of Destiny dice equal to the number before the d6. Any rolls that have been replaced count as unmodified rolls, which is good to know, and they can never be re-rolled, even better, and they can't be changed, and they cannot be modified by friendly abilities. So we can't modify them, or the player can't modify them, but your enemy can. So if you're still -1 to hit, and you use the Destiny dice as a hit roll, you're still going to be affected by that -1 hit to hit. You can just manipulate the success just by guaranteeing the dice roll that you're going to be picking. Okay, you cannot spend Destiny dice to replace rerolls. So the Destiny dice can be spent on the following dice rolls: casting rolls, unbinding rolls, banishing rolls, run rolls, charge rolls in your turn, good to clarify, hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls. Now, save rolls is obviously armor saves and ward saves, so you can get them from the both. I like how the fact that it's specifying in your phase, your turn for charging, which is good, obviously, because we know that we can counter charge at the end of the opponent's charge phase. So it's cool. So this is the next is the new sort of mechanic which the armies get, which is kind of cool, and I'm 100% guaranteeing this is how disease points are going to work for the Maggotkin of Nurgle. So pick an enemy unit that has any damage points allocated to it this turn by the Wormed Flame spell ability, or shooting attacks made with weapons that have the word flame. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but bite me. Ability to be the target. The effects the target as the burning keyword. Now you're going to get to keep the burning keyword for the entire game, unless you use one of the abilities later on, and you'll be able to get rid of it. So once per turn, army, at the end of the turn, roll a d3 for each burning enemy unit. On a 2 to 3, inflict any amount of mortal damage on that unit equals to the roll, right? So if you basically roll a d6, and if you roll a 3+, 3 or 4, you're going to inflict 2 mortal damage. If you roll a 5 or 6, you're going to inflict 3 mortal damage. If you roll a 1 or a 2, the unit no longer has the burning keyword, so they can put themselves out. There's also a passive ability, so if a burning enemy unit uses an ability that would heal or return slain models to it, instead of healing or returning slain models to it, that unit no longer has the burning effect. It's kind of like a little mix of 3rd edition disease points, where you kind of could use healing abilities to get rid of the disease points, and they've kind of sort of brought that in for Tzeentch. I really like this. It's really quite good to do. It's quite an elegant system, and it's a good insight to how Nurgle and their disease is going to work as well. So let's have a little look at the battle formation. So as you can imagine, it's all around burning people, because that's the theme. So if you take the word flame host, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by burning enemy units. Simple and easy, really cool. And for the incantation, we have, and I imagine these guys are going to have a lot of spells. So you get the Lord of Change in your hero phase, transformed to spawn. So you pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast the spell, pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6 needing 7 or more. Effects: inflict a d3 mortal damage on the target. Nice. If any models are slain by this ability, pick a friendly Spawn of Tzeentch unit that is in reserve or as a potential fate, or that has been destroyed. Okay. Now, I would imagine that means you're going to need to pick, or at least have, a couple of Spawn in your army, and paid for to have them on the side. And we're going to talk a little bit about summoning here, because at the end, because there's a lot of indication that there's going to be no summoning in 4th edition. So if you pick a unit that's in reserve as a potent of fate, set it up on the battlefield in combat with the target. If you picked a unit that has been destroyed, set an identical replacement unit on the battlefield in combat with a single target. So you kind of need spawns, okay? It's kind of going to be good to have them. And as you can imagine, we're talking about spawns, so they're going to show us a passive ability from the Spawn War Scroll, which is each friendly Chaos Spawn of Tzeentch can be replaced any number of times. So you just keep bringing them back. So hopefully they're going to be cheap and cheerful, and they're going to be fun, because spawns are kind of cool. It's just a shame that their models are a bit naff, but that's why you have 3D printers. So Kairos the Fate Weaver, a really cool 2-headed chicken, and he's quite strong. I quite like him in Total War 3. So he has a 5-up save, and he has also a 5-up ward save. He moves 12, he has 16 health, he has a control of 5. He has the Staff of Tomorrow, so he has 4 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 2s, -1 rend, d3 damage, 0 abilities. He has a curved beaks, because he has 2 heads. 5 attacks, 4s, followed by 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage. So he's not really a lover, and not really a fighter. Let's be fair. You're not going to be killing much by getting Kairos into combat. But that's not why you're going to be bringing him. So he does have battle damage, so if you have 10 or more damage, your curved beaks drops down to 3 attacks rather than 5. So he has a passive ability called Master of Magic. When you make a casting roll for this unit, you can change the lowest d6 to match the highest d6. That is so good. That is so good. So he should never have an issue casting spells ever, at all, because if you get at least a 4 or a 5 on 1 dice, you're always going to get an 8 or a 10. So that's such a really good ability. So once per battle reaction, you declared the tactical gambit ability. You get the Oracle of Eternity. So you pick one of the following effects. Read the past. You can pick one battle tactic that you have already attempted. Cool. Or you can pick a battle tactic. That's kind of cool. Or you can read the future. You can pick 2 battle tactics that you have not yet attempted, but you can only complete one of them even if you meet the conditions to complete both. The other does not count as having been attempted, and if you do not complete either battle tactic, you can pick which does not count as have been attempted. That is so strong, because not only are you going to be able to take a battle tactic that you can potentially do, but you're throwing out 2 possibilities and having the possibility of trying to score either, so it gives you more options during your turn and potential 4 points, which is such a good ability. That's going to be really interesting. I expect to see Kairos in a lot of Tzeentch armies. So you've got a passive, Beacon of Sorcery. Add 1 to the casting rolls and unbinding rolls for friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizards while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. +1 to cast is always kind of cool. And you expect it because, you know, Tzeentch should be, you know, magic focused. Same as the Seraphon and the Lumineth Realm Lords are probably going to get similar abilities. So in your hero phase, he can cast a spell called Arcane Suggestion. So you pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target, and then make a casting roll on 2d6, needing an 8. Remember that you have Master of Magic. Effect, pick one of the following effects to apply to the target until the start of your next turn. So it's hopeless. The target cannot use commands. Pretty strong. Drop your weapons. Subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls for the target's attacks. -1 to hit and -1 to wound is pretty solid. So I'm not going to lie, especially if you stick it on a really elite unit. And then kneel. Subtract 1 some save rolls for the target. Yeah, if you've got a good Alpha Strike coming in, popping -1 save is going to be really quite handy. But I would probably, the commands is definitely going to be very situational. It's when you don't want your opponent to use commands, that's going to come in really handy. And the good thing is, it's this takes effect right through until the start of your next turn. So if you go first, you can do these things to enemy units, and then in their turn, they're not going to be able to do this either. So -1 to hit, -1 to wound is kind of solid. No commands is going to be really kind of good. -1 save, again, if you've got an Alpha Strike coming in and you really want to see something dead, that's when, you know, that one's going to see play. But yeah, the other two are very, very good. So the Gaunt Summoner, which is kind of a really weird looking wizard, has a 6-up save. He has a movement of 5, 5 health, 2 control. He has the Chain Staff, which is 12-inch range, 3 attacks, 4s followed by 3s, 1 rend, D3. But he does do crit damage on 6s to hit, which is cool. He has the Warp Tongue Blade, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. Now, don't get me wrong, you're not really going to want your Gaunt Summoners to be in combat because they're pretty squishy and they've only got a 6-up ward. But they can maybe dish out a little bit of hurt before they do eventually die. So in the deployment phase, you can pick a friendly unit that has not been deployed to be the target, and then the effect is that the target is set up in reserve in a silver tower, and it has now been deployed. All right, so you can kind of do a little bit of off-the-board deployment, which is kind of cool with a Gaunt Summoner. Your movement phase, Book of Profane Secrets, pick a friendly unit in the silver tower to be the target, and then set that target up on the battlefield, wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. Very nice. So you've got a spell, the Realm Gate, and I'm kind of thinking of a theme here. Make a casting roll of 2d6 on a 7 inches, on a 7. Remember that if you've got Kairos wholly within 12, you're going to get +1 to that casting roll. Units set up this turn using this unit's Book of Profane Secrets ability can be set up wholly within 18 inches of this unit and more than 7 inches from all enemy units instead of the distances in the ability. Right. So a couple of things to unpack. So you can stick units off the board and deploy them. You can bring them in wholly within 12 inches of yourself in your movement phase. But in your hero phase, you can cast this ability, this spell, and essentially make that an 18-inch bubble and be able to deploy within 7 inches of enemy units. And obviously you've then got your fate dice, your destiny dice, to be able to manipulate those 7-inch charge rolls. So you could essentially come in with a nice little Alpha Strike and then charge really well. And it doesn't say one unit, it's just units. So that's kind of cool. And then we get the Curse League, probably one of the coolest models in their entire range. So he has a 3-up save, which you would expect from a Chaos Lord. He has a 5-up move, he has 6 health, and he has control of 2. I wonder if that's because it's him and his brother. So you've got Hurling Arcane Energy, which is an 18-inch range, D6 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, -1 rend and 1 damage, and it has the Word Flame key ability, so any damage that thing does is going to apply the burning effect onto the target. Melee weapons, Staff of Tzeentch and the Blazing Sword, so it has 5 attacks, 4s and 4s, which is pretty naff for a Chaos Lord, let's be fair. 1 rend, 2 damage. So he's not really a fighter. 4s and 4s are not bad, but it's not great. It's like, that's on par with the city's troops. He has a passive ability, so he's Disruptor of the Arcane. So each time this unit unbinds a spell, roll a dice on a 4+, subtract 1 from the power level of enemy wizards that use that spell. Ability is to a minimum of 0 until the start of your next turn. Shutting down magic for a turn is really good, and it's to the start of your next turn. So again, if you go first and they try to do any magic in your phase, which you can do, and you just stop that from happening, you can then, you know, reduce their potential magic for their turn, which is kind of cool. So in your hero phase, you have a spell that casts on a 5. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the rend and damage characteristics of this unit's Staff of Tzeentch and Blazing Stores. So there we go. He can buff himself to give himself +1 rend, +1 damage. He's still hitting on 4s. He's still going to be wounding on 4s, which is pretty crap. But, okay, you know, he at least can make himself a little bit better. Fully expecting to see a spell like this in the Lumineth Realm Lords as well. And then finally, we get the Pink Horrors. Probably one of the most problematic units in the entire game, which is constantly being FAQ'd and changed. And we've kind of seen like a little newish version of the 3rd edition one. So they have a 6-up save, they move 6, they've got 2 health, and they've got a control of 1. As you can imagine, they have a lot of attacks. So they fire 2 attacks out at 12-inch range, hitting on 4s, wound on 4s, no rend 1 damage, but they do apply the burning effect with the ward flame. They have talons, so 1 attack each, 4s and 4s, no rend 1 damage. And then they've kind of got the similar ability from 3rd edition. So basically, each time a model in this unit is slain, before removing the model from the play, pick one of the following effects. You can pick a friendly blue horror or brimstone horror unit within 12 inches of this unit and return 2 slain blue horror models to that unit. Now, I'm going to say that that needs FAQ'd straight away because... No, it's not. So so they've basically put in the brimstone horrors and the blue horrors into the one unit. Right, that makes sense. Okay. So yeah, okay. You're going to just return 2 models to that unit. Cool. So, or you can go for Petty Vengeance. So if you get hurt and you lose a model, on a 4+, you can inflict 1 mortal damage back on the target. So it's kind of, it's a little bit better than it was. It looks like Blue Horrors and Brimstone Horrors are now like 1 unit, which is kind of cool. These do have a 6-up ward save, so but you're going to see these in big blobs of 20, at least. And then we have the Spearhead, and the Spearhead rules are as you expect. So we've got the Spearhead for Tzeentch. It's this new wizard guy and some of the acolytes on the humans, some flamers, and some those horror things, the flying stingrays, and some of the Tzeentch beastmen. The only beastmen that are now in Age of Sigmar. So we've got like a sort of simplified version of the Destiny dice for Spearhead. You still roll your 9 dice. You can still change, but you've got a few different options to pick. So casting rolls, run rolls, charge rolls, hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls. Okay, so it's again, they've still got the same mechanic because Spearhead is kind of designed as an entry level. So you're getting a little bit of a flavour of it. And then the Acolytes, 5-up save, move 5, 1 health each. Not great range weapons, 18-inch, one attack, 4s followed by 3s, and then their cursed blades, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage, and they can make a casting roll of 2d6, and on a 6+, add 1 to the rank characteristics of this unit's Sorcerer's Bolt. Cool, but what do they need to cast on a 2d6? So, no idea. But there we go. And tomorrow we're going to be getting the Fat Boys, the Ogre tribes, which is actually one that I am actually looking forward to seeing and seeing what the big guys get. But yeah, that's Tzeentch. Some interesting changes and a nice little clarification, I think, for how Nurgle are going to be working as well. So we're looking forward to getting the Nurgle faction focus to see exactly how disease points are working. But I would put a good bet on that it's going to work exactly like Burning, to be fair. Fate points, Destiny dice, exactly as you expect them to do. There's some shenanigans there, so there's definitely once we see the full faction pack, there's definitely some shenanigans with movement and deployment and magic and everything else. So it should be quite an interesting army. I fully expect to see endless spells be thrown everywhere. Sorry, manifestations now be thrown everywhere across the board, because most, if not all, of your heroes are going to be wizards and are going to have access to being able to bring them. So you're still going to see a lot of endless spells. And if you're a Tzeentch player, you're probably already own all of the endless spells anyway, so you still get to use all of your toys. Kara's Fate Weaver is pretty cool. He's got some really nice rules there. Really cool model, and I'm expecting to see him a lot, depending on his points, in a lot of Tzeentch armies. But that is Tzeentch. Tomorrow is the Ogre tribes. And if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, share, do all the good stuff. Check out my members and Patreon area, and I will see you all in tomorrow's video. Goodbye for now.